Well, this book is based on actual occurrences, actual history, actual events, actual people that lived in the past. And so I didn't want to write the book without actually experiencing some of the places and, if possible, some of the people and some of the events. So I became very bold. I asked access to places I never considered I would have the nerve enough to ask access to. JPL, for one thing. They told me at first they don't do fiction. They don't allow people to come in and do research for fiction, but the more I talked to them, eventually they said okay. So I went in and I spent 3 days in the JPL archives. It was pretty easy to get into Lowell Observatory. They love writers, they love artists. You know, Percival Lowell was kind of wacky whack anyway, so I fit right in with them, and their archives and their library are kind of laid back and informal, and it worked really well, unlike JPL, in which I almost got in trouble like many times for my unorthodox research methods. The other really hard place to get into was the Goldstone, what do you call it? The Goldstone Deep Space Network, which is where all the radio dishes are that pick up the signals from all the spacecraft way out. They're even picking up the one that just left the solar system. I think it was Voyager. They're still picking up signals from Voyager. So I had to talk my way in there, and again, it's a really restricted place because it's government, it's NASA, and the more I talked to them, the more interested they got in my subject matter. And by the time I got there, they had actually rounded up some people that had worked there a long time ago that sat down, and you know, the exact era that I was trying to write about, they had someone who had been working there at that time, and she was able to give me a lot of information. I went to Boston because I wanted to walk in the footsteps of Percival Lowell, who was from Boston. So I did research and found out where his offices were, where he lived, where his secretary, Rexy Leonard, who is a major character in my book, where she lived, where she hung out, Newberry Street, it turns out. So I did a lot of research there. And then, you know, it just became a whole process of bringing it back home and thinking about all of it. But when I really sat down to write about these places and these events that had happened a long time ago, I was able to do it with, you know, really good accuracy. And if I hadn't gone to all those places, I don't think I would have been able to write it at all the same.